All right. So welcome to Further Insights podcast video interview, TikTok series extraordinaire, volume 1. Really happy that we've got Mr. Aeron Alberti on as our first guest. Glad to have you. And it's been awesome getting to know you over the last few months, not only professionally, but personally too. Always cool to see people that are dynamic and not just what meets the eye. So being able to play music with you and hang out beyond the work we're doing has been great. But yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So I guess, Aeron, how did you get started in real estate? Like, what's the origin story for you?
It's just by chance. I was always interested in it for some reason, and I bought a house to live in. It's really how I got started.
When was that?
And that was in 2005.
Gotcha.
So.
And bought a house to live in, knowing you were gonna like use it as a rental property.
Well,
or
it needed work,
Yeah.
So I kind of like the idea of doing work to it to where I could kind of buy it at a discount and do work to it. It'd be worth more than I paid for it, significantly more. And I like that idea that I could actually control and do something that pretty quickly raised my equitable interest.
What were you doing before that?
I bounced around from sales job. I was in sales, and I played some music for kind of as a main income for a little while.
Were you thinking about doing that full time? Was that the goal?
I would have loved to do that. Still would love to do that. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay the bills. So.
I learned that firsthand too. But
right.
Yeah,
and real estate, I just saw the lucrativeness of it, and that's really what got me into it. Was like, all right, I can do this, and it would be worth that later, and that was greater than I could ever imagine.
So 2005, you buy this house,
right?
You know it's gonna be a fix and flip, or at least it's gonna be a reno. You're gonna have to put some work into it,
right?
Did you do the work yourself? Did you hire people? Like, what was that process?
Yeah, like a mixture.
Yeah.
I did a lot of work myself, and I'd hire people, and not necessarily like, professional contractors, like friends and that sort of thing to like help out, and made a lot of mistakes. But it definitely, I got the education that way. And then after that, I decided to buy another one. And so.
Same area? Was it a different area? Like, did your viewpoint change? How were you? Because you were living in this one, right?
I was living in that one,
the
right?
First one,
same area, but cheaper area. So, to give you an idea, I bought that first house for $270-something thousand, and I think my first like investment property after that, I think I bought for like $50,000.
Gotcha.
Right.
So you're living in this one. Then you did this first kind of intentionally. Was it a flip? Was it a rental? What was your thinking?
The first investment property was a flip. I didn't get into the rental stuff till later. Flip, and I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I just kind of jumped in and bought something, and didn't even know how I was going to pay for it. It's because like the thing about real estate is you buy it. When you actually buy the property, and you do a purchase contract, you don't give any money. It's just you just agree to buy it. And then there's like a settlement process that takes sometimes 30, 45 days, 60 days. And the seller doesn't necessarily know this, but I don't have any money. And so the pressure's on, and I found that I kind of work well under pressure. So I had to find this money, which
you
is
hard money loan? How did you get the financing?
No, back then it was, I just borrowed it from a bank. Things have changed as far as the lending practices over the years, but I don't even really remember, but I was able to borrow it from a bank. I think Countrywide Lending or something did it, which may not even be in business anymore. I don't know, but I was able to buy it, and I did. I made more money on that house than I probably did in maybe even a year's worth of salary of wherever I was working.
That must have been a good feeling.
Like it's
like what I've been missing here,
right. And then I think I lost it all in the next house.
So you do the first one, does well, do another one, not as well, and then you just got the bug, kept going. Like, what was the path from 2005 to now? Like, how did that escalate.
Yeah, there's been ups and downs in my career because so what happened was that I kind of developed a team of people that were like, we were like renovating these houses, and it became like a contracting company. And I never really solicited business or anything, but people would kind of find me and say, hey, well, can you do that for me? I already had this team of guys, and I became a contractor, and I got licensed. So I always just did work for on my own houses and then for other people. And I kind of used other people's houses as not only a learning platform, but also, if I didn't have necessarily a house to buy right then and there, I could keep my guys busy on someone else's house for less margin, but I was keeping them busy. And then I would find a really good deal where I could make in the tens of thousands of dollars, and I had the guys available. One of the biggest challenges is having the guys available to do the work, not necessarily. So there's a lot of moving parts, and that's a big one.
So at this point, you went into this thing, I'm going to just do the investing side. I'll buy them, I'll get people in, and then by virtue of you just being asked organically to provide your people or to be able to bring your expertise to a project, you're like, well, I should be a contractor too. Like, was there any thought of do I need to pick one, or were you just at that point intentionally aware of I'm going to follow the money, take opportunities as they come? Was there a conscious thought of building this bigger thing, or was it more like, let's just see what happens kind of deal?
It was. I never had any goals like that. It was one house at a time, one worker employee at a time. I'm kind of a one day at a time type. So I just didn't have anything else going on. So I just kind of dive in and figure it out later type thing. And so I would hire, a person to help me out, paint or whatever it was, and never even thought about I was going to have 2 employees. I never ever thought about I was going to have 2 houses. I just kind of just would work. One thing that I've always done that I really subconsciously didn't even know I was doing, but I would always just get up in the morning and go. And I didn't always necessarily know where I was going or what I was going to do that day. And I still live my life that way. So so what I would do is just create chaos and then try to figure that chaos out. And I kind of have adopted that model for the past 17 years.
Awesome.
So
that's pretty sage advice.
Right.
Not for everybody, but
and so I kind of reflect back rather than forward. So I'm like, oh wow, I just renovated that house. Great. How did I do that? But I just kind of work hard, 8, 10, 12 hours every day. And whatever happens. It's kind of and the reason for that is, I think prior to that, I don't know what they were because they never happened, but I would always set these goals and I would never accomplish them. So I just gave up on the goal setting, and just said, all right, well, let's, or narrowed it down to a daily goals. Got to get this done today.
And, it sounds like naturally your kind of thought process evolved and you got more intelligent about the decisions you were making because you had more experience and you could reflect back on, this is a good deal, this is a bad deal. But what do you define, what's your criteria when you look to buy something now, and how has that changed? And what got you to the point where you have, I guess, a different viewpoint? Or do you still, is it more just if you see something that's interesting, you'll go after it? Or is there more of a kind of a thesis statement at this point?
Yeah, for me, it's always been numbers based. I'm fascinated with numbers, and I just like numbers, and so it's nothing really emotionally. I've never really been emotionally attached to, a house or even a job or anything like that. So it's always been about, if everything goes as planned, I'll make this much, and then trying to make sure that's enough. To maybe create buffers. So to use real life numbers, if everything goes perfectly, maybe my organization would make $100,000 on this. So that's 100,000 ones before you get to 0, and try to avoid anything below 0, right? So that's a pretty big buffer. So say, I'm certain that this is going to go as planned, but I'm not certain that this is going to go as planned. So the one I'm not certain about, if that goes the opposite way, where will I be? Will I be at 80,000? Okay, it's still good. I'm still going to do it. What if it goes terribly wrong, complete disaster, have to tear the house down, and I'm stuck with a vacant piece of land? What will my financial outlook be about that? okay, I could live with that. You know, so it's kind of like always kind of going for the icing on top attitude.
Have you found yourself in a situation where a deal seems great and all the numbers check out, and then you're into it and you need to get out? And if that has happened, like how do you do that when you're already in it and you already have money spent on it?
Yeah. So one thing, by the day, I'm constantly evaluating every single thing. So I'm evaluating. It's like that all the time. You know, more times than but in this recent last few years, the way the market's been appreciating, it seems like almost monthly for like 3 years. So they've actually turned out sometimes better than I expected, which is like completely rare in real estate. Like I said, it would be like if everything goes perfect, we'll make this much. Well, they've been like more than perfect lately. Like it's like wow, like because of the appreciation. So if you have a project that takes 2 months and you paid wholesale price for it, the wholesale number might be worth more 2 months from now than it was when you paid for it. So if you do nothing, you're building equity by doing nothing. You know,
Is that going to persist? Do you think the market?
No.
I mean, obviously everybody's scared of this crash or correction. Like, does that risk go away entirely? I mean, is there still money to be made in if we go full recession? Like, is there an opportunity for new investors, or would you like tell people that are getting in the game now to like wait until it's back in a position where they can just have appreciation, like you're talking about?
No, I mean, I feel like my business is recession proof because, you know, as the market on the retail side, it increases in value, so does the wholesale side. So, okay, so a house on the retail side is, say it's worth $200,000. Maybe I was buying that for, you know, $100,000 because there's a lot of competition on that side. So say that house loses 10% of its value and goes to 180. You know, you're hoping that it loses at least 10 or 20% of the value on the wholesale side. So instead of buying that house for, you know, 100 now, maybe I can get it for 80,000. So, you know, I think people like me that do this it's all about the spreads. And you know, houses having a real life use, even though we trade them like baseball cards, it's hard for them to be worthless. So it's not like a stock or a piece of paper or an idea. I mean, there's a roof and there's a water heater and there's material and stuff that has value and can be used. So I don't see it going to like zero. So as long as there has some value, you just have to buy it less than the value.
Do you think there's going to be a decrease in inventory? Do you think there's going to be an increase in inventory? Like, what does the next 6 months look like in your world? I mean, obviously you're saying you're recession proof, which is clearly true because the markets, when there's demand, and even if there's limited supply, people will figure out how to get the house and there's going to be stuff available. But like, is there a possibility that just there will be no inventory for a little while longer? Is there a possibility like there'll be such an excess of inventory that nobody will be buying them, so the need to fix and flip will slow down? Like, is there any real inherent risk in the market in general, or is it just maybe like expect a slowdown if you're in the space, if you're a real estate investor looking to become one? Like, what's that look like in the next 6 to 12 months?
I don't think anybody really knows what the future holds for anything. I mean, this is a opinion of mine that there's such huge demand. I mean, one thing's for certain: people are still having kids, so families are getting bigger, more people, you know, and we need houses for people to live in. That's number one. But you know what? I don't see as much new construction as I used to. Now, I may be wrong about that. There might be happening places I'm not aware of, but it just seems like, you know, you can only build so many houses before you run out of land and places to build them. So I think the fix and flip is still huge demand, where you take an existing house that's already there and basically repair it, you know, and put it back to maybe not the original condition, but definitely improve it, you know, and make it livable. And a lot of these houses have, you know, we find houses all the time where, you know, either somebody's passed on and it's more of a nuisance, or they can't afford repairs, or so they have to just sell it or whatever. And, you know, repairing the house to where somebody can kind of have not necessarily a new house, but like a nice updated house that has been originally built, who knows when, is kind of a huge demand. I don't see the new houses, and with material costs, that doesn't seem to be. I don't think anybody argues that inflation is here, and with material costs, you obviously don't need as many materials for an existing rehab as you would to say build a house from the ground up.
Have you seen any issues with like supply chain as a contractor? Have you had any issues? Like a lot of people talk, I can't get that appliance, or the price of lumber is going up. Like, have you had to pivot or rethink your overall like material thinking, or is it pretty much just lower margins on certain things?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to basically be flexible on what's available as opposed to what you want. I mean, I don't know if that'll ever change. I mean, but that's a big change that's happened in the last couple of years, is that it's not about like what you want anymore. It's about like what is available. And I mean, I've noticed, just regular buying stuff off Amazon, it doesn't even come. It used to like anything would be like show up the next day. Now it's like, I'm waiting on this, I'm waiting on that. And and of course building products is no different, so maybe instead of having 30 vanities in stock to choose from, maybe there's 5, and I got to have a vanity. I have to wash my hands. And, so I do think there's been a huge correction on the availability of stuff. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like there was like too much stuff. So it's definitely slowed down in that aspect.
Like lumber, everybody's talking about lumber. I know the price has corrected a little bit, but like, have you, for major materials, like, is there an alternative type of material you've like, or a lot of people do like shipping container houses or whatever, the new fads, or like, is it just like whatever the most stable, most affordable material is at any stage? Is that kind of the way you're looking at it?
Yeah. So there's also another issue where, here in Maryland, you're not allowed to just use whatever material you want. You have to follow the rules of the land, and there's codes and that sort of thing. So I think a lot of that stuff that people see, like with a container house or whatever the case may be, like, I don't know if that meets any type of code, or I mean, is it windows, or is there egress windows on this thing? Is it hooked to a sewer system, or is it just stuck somewhere on a piece of land? Like, I'm not really sure about that stuff. I know, like, in my world, there are codes, and so you can't, you have to use what, 2x6s or 2x4s or whatever the plans call for. You can't just go use something that you think is sturdy, that hasn't been engineered and tested and approved by some governing body. So it's always funny when people say, well, we'll just use, the side of an old car door or something to hold this up. It's like, I don't know if that's allowed, I think, to do that. I mean, it might work, practically work, I guess, and it's creative and artistic, but it's not legal to do that. So, and so that's a challenge, because you can't just do whatever you want, and so sometimes the stuff that's available in Home Depot meets no type of code, and the stuff that does meet the code, I guess, is on back order. You can't get. So that is a challenge with, especially, like breakers, for example. You can't just use whatever breakers you want. You got to use the ones that you're allowed to use. But the ones you're not allowed to use seem to be available in the stores. I guess like they haven't sold them yet. Yeah.
So, do you like run into any issues with like compliance or code where like you'll do something that is right, but for some reason, like, an inspector or whatever is just giving you a hard time and preventing you from selling the house?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the business, though. I don't think it's part of the business. I don't really have too many problems in that area. Maybe I hear people complain about it more than it actually happens. Yeah.
Gotcha. Obviously now we're breaking into more like digital lead gen, getting people to come to you. But how have you gotten deals up to this point? Like, what is, like, if somebody is just getting started, like door knocking, skip tracing, like what do you do to just get a foot in the door?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question, because it's been very competitive with even people that have been doing it a long time. And for me, what's kept me going as long as I am a big networker, I'm not, I've never, marketing is kind of new for me as far as like the digital marketing and sort of thing, but I have a lot of customers, so I'm always talking to them. I'm just letting everybody I know that I'm always looking to buy houses, and people will say, what areas? All areas, how big, all price ranges. people say, well, are you looking for rentals or looking for flips or looking for this and that, anything. And so kind of casting as broad a net as I can. I'm sorry, I don't know if I said that right. Casting as big a net as I possibly can, and then kind of picking at what comes up in that net, you know. So I'm not afraid to make offers for what I think something's worth as opposed to what somebody's asking.
And you were saying before when you started, you didn't even have the cash to do it. You're like, I'm going to make an offer. I'm going to figure out how to get the financing once I get the offer.
Right.
You know, was that pretty much what you would say to somebody who's looking to get into the game, doesn't have the cash to do it, but like a lot of people say start, door knocking and go wholesale and see if you can do that, which is obviously difficult in and of itself. But like theoretically, you just put an offer in and hope for the best.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's everybody's risk tolerance is different. I mean, for me, I always figured what was the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't come up with the money.
Right.
And I mean, you might have somebody aggravated with you. Remember that.
Lose a couple points.
Which I don't want. I mean, I'd rather them not be aggravated, but I think that the upside of you figuring it out and being successful with it was worth maybe aggravating someone. They'll get over it. And if I win, maybe I'll make $50,000, $100,000. So I think if you ask most people, would they trade the risk of aggravating somebody for $50,000 or $100,000 gamble? They would say almost yes, almost every time.
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then this is probably a long business for you. Right. So, I say if you find something that if you could figure it out, would change your life financially. I've always encouraged people to just go for it and let the power of your human mind figure it out. I think humans and people in general are resilient when it comes to that. So, and that's kind of, I mean, I look back and I'm like, that was crazy to have, but there's plenty of time I think later on in life to be conservative with just go for it. I mean, I was 27 years old and if I didn't come up with the money, I didn't come up with the money, and I did. I came up with it, and what happened. But one thing I was going to come up with no matter what, I was convinced of, was the education. And I've had mistakes and messed up and wasn't able to, meet my commitments early on sometimes. But I did add a little bit of a tool to it, which down the road, I didn't realize it at the time, but down the road, definitely, I got that valuable experience. That's.
And then did you get the renovation? But for that first, I should get the renovation budget in the financing. Did you do I know there's a loan where you can get the renovation budget bundled in, right? I'm about to. And on another note, I just bought a house and it took me 5 offers to finally get one, and it was just going to require some work, obviously. So I'm getting financing for the house, and I have to separately have to finance the renovation. So is that for developers? Builders, it's the same context. How does that work?
Yeah, those products are out there. I use those products. You buy the house and you borrow the money for that. I borrow the money for everything. So I borrow
separately, credit cards, whatever. Just get it done.
I borrow the renovation,
yeah.
and a lot of the lenders that are out there are happy to do that because they're kind of secure. They're securing their house. You're obviously adding equity,
right?
So they're more. I think they almost would rather loan you money to renovate it. They would rather have a house as collateral that's fixed up than a house that's not. And so, I'm there. Obviously, I don't know how much information for free is out there on the internet, but yes, there are plenty of ways to buy a house without having any money.
You still doing financing, or are you funding your own deals at this point?
No, I always finance. I finance.
Do you shell LLCs for every project? Do you run under one thing? How does that happen?
I separate some risk with different LLCs, and it's, LLCs.
Have you gotten? I'm sure you have, but have you gotten smarter about risk mitigation with taxes and how do you? When you're talking about that much profit that quickly, and then do you take that money, put it into another project? How do you offset, the capital gains when you sell? How does that all work from a pure business perspective?
So, I trust my accountant.
Gotcha. So get a good accountant, is that number one?
Yeah. One of the things over the years that I've done is I kind of stick to what I'm good at, and then I have teams of people who figure that out, and they offer. Maybe you have to buy something that would be tax advantageous. And when it comes to like tax strategies and, saving on taxes or taking advantage of different, those are questions for an accountant,
Sure.
and I trust that. And those conversations are happening all the time, but I don't really, I'm definitely not qualified to give the tax advice. I feel like I would say something that's not technically accurate, when it comes to that. And when it comes to real estate, there are, I know it's a complicated issue with how things are taxed.
Sure.
And what's considered profit and what's not. And
we'll have an accountant on our next episode.
yeah, definitely. I'll give you one. I'd be happy to be on here,
So do you still have the passion for real estate now? Has your interest in the field changed? Is it fun, or is it there are times where it's just a job?
No, it's fun. I love it. I do it. Sometimes I do it for free. I help. I try to help other people if they're trying to do it and offer advice. And it's not just the money. It's cool seeing properties that were dilapidated, even in your own neighborhood, get fixed up. I feel like sometimes flippers get a bad rep, but I don't know what some of these towns would look like without them. These properties sit there, and you drive by them, and you're like, man, can somebody fix this thing up? And you'll hear people in the neighborhood say, they're developing it, they're doing this. Who's that they? They are just these little, just guys like me, I guess, that are, picked up the property cheaper, and improved it, and either sold it or rented it or whatever. And we're not going to knock down a Baltimore City row home. Why not just fix what's there? It's a lot of this architecture from years ago is really cool looking, and it just kind of needs to be restored and cleaned back up. It's amazing what paint will do. And so I like all that. And I'd pretty much talk about it whenever, wherever you can, if I can help somebody do it. It's not just, I don't really view it as competition so much as just improving the community also. I live in Harford County, and I work in the Baltimore area, and I do like to see our community get better and better looking, at the very least. And I feel good about what we've done for the area and the amount of renovated properties, rehabs we've done. They're better, Might not be perfect, but they're a lot better than they were, So
absolutely. I think I heard you say a couple weeks ago you maybe have 100 plus rental properties and probably about hundreds, if not thousands, of projects all in.
Projects thousands.
Yeah.
And over 100 plus units.
What is the next stage of growth for Alberti companies look
So
like? Where are you going?
We're one day at a time. I'm
no goals.
Yeah, my wife started a real estate brokerage, and she's done real well with that. And it's kind of like just added services to the contracting and the real estate development. So not only do we renovate properties, we also list them and sell them and dispose of them as well. And that's been successful in my eyes. We've done, we invest in our own products. So we have rental properties, and those are all, in my opinion, pretty nice, quality rental, affordable. We're still one day thing at a time. I like
just getting more powerful and having more offerings, basically, internally, and not having to go to other people. You can just do it all yourself. Is that kind of?
Yeah, you have to have employees. You have to have help. There's no question about that.
Where's that?
That's in Aberdeen.
Cool.
And at the same time, we purchased a townhouse. We paid $60,000 for. So I don't think I don't think we have any real ambitions or goals other than to just kind of keep working until we can't.
Do you want to put people in a place to take over at a certain point, or it sounds like you and your wife really love the game and the business itself, but do you see a day where this company outlives you guys unless you retire and do other stuff, or do you guys want to be operationally involved for as long as possible?
Yeah, I don't know what I would do with myself if I didn't do it. So I'm going to do it as long as I
buy a tour bus and
possibly.
go play live music all over the country, right?
Yeah, right. If it's probably not good enough, but but as far as I mean, I'd like to do more consulting probably. Just consult other. I mean, that would be something I would like to do more of, and I do it with my network of people that like my customers and stuff, and give advice where I can informally. But I wouldn't mind doing some more formal consulting. Not necessarily coaching. I know that's a business, but more just like consulting. I feel like I've been doing it a long time, and I have a lot in my head, and I think some valuable information that I feel like if somebody wanted to know, I have it, you know, and we've done a lot of I've done it pretty hardcore for the past like 6-7 days a week for almost 17 years. So
well, that's interesting. I mean, that's the beauty of like this, right? I mean, there's so many people now that are getting access to information they never would have had before, and it's an outlet for people to share advice without having to charge them like $10,000 for information they may or may not actually care about.
Right.
So like, what are your thoughts about the state of social media and marketing for real estate investors, like, or even contractors? Like, it seems, as a marketing firm, it seems obvious to us now that everybody needs to be active in content creation. The more value you give, the more you get back. Creating content, sharing it has a lot of value, but it's also just enjoyable for people who actually are subject matter experts and care. So like, is that something you like? Is this something you're excited about for yourself, like the power of social media and content like this and other kind of formats, or is it something that you think is just like an annoyance that you kind of have to do to be a brand even in a local market?
Yeah, I to answer your question, it's an annoyance to me, and maybe that's just being like getting older or something like that. It's something I know that I have to do. I mean, my biggest problem with social media is the lack of ingenuity. You don't really, or the lack of genuinity. I'm sorry, is you don't know what to believe, and like everybody has their businesses that they know all about, and for me, like I know how to buy and sell a house. I've done it a lot of times, right? And I've done it successfully and unsuccessfully, and more times than not successfully. And I see advertisements on how to do it with and tricks and stuff, and they don't, that doesn't work. It's obvious to me that the person advertising that has never done it. Their business is maybe coaching or consulting with no experience, and because that wouldn't work. So you're basically paying either for the entertainment of that, which would be, I guess, okay, but if you actually follow those steps, you're going to possibly have financial disaster, right? So it bothers me that the competition is for you're competing with people that don't know, and that are selling illusions, and so I don't like that aspect of it. And I don't want to be lumped in with that.
No, and I think people are starting to sift through the BS. I don't think consumers are getting smart because there's so much content and we're so pervasive. Like, I mean, I don't like it, but TikTok is such a real thing that we're like investing in content creators for TikTok now because it's important for our clients and it's important for us to get out there. So it's crazy how much of it there is, but like the younger people get and like it's part of everyday life, and like it's just, you can't escape it. So it's almost like if you're not on there, you're not getting an opportunity to get in front of people that you could change their life potentially with real information for free. And it's like, it's such a trade-off because there's so many people who like misuse it or have abused it, or just like, look at me, I'm great, but they have no deals, they've never done a project, but they want people to like believe them while they're sitting in a fake jet or something. I think those days are gone. But just seen some amazing things happening with people who are doing things like this, sharing information for free, and their businesses are growing exponentially because they're giving information away for free, and people are then booking them for speaking engagements or books, or like they're just getting bigger and better deals because they're sharing honest, authentic information. So we're hoping that's the wave that's coming, especially for small business owners with social. But yeah, if you're like a guy like you that likes to be out in the field doing deals, I mean, it's got to be kind of like I guess we got to do this,
But I like giving back,
Yeah.
where I can,
Yeah.
and it's I think people are always looking for like the tricks and there's not enough. I don't think it sells, but the emphasis on the attitude and the, maybe evaluating risk tolerance and some of the more intangible stuff when it comes to making money or real estate or any business for that matter, that, I could go and give you, a copy of my lease or a copy of a contract or whatever, but none of that stuff, you still need to have like I can't, like what we talked about when I bought that first house and I didn't know where I was going to come up with the money. That's a big question people have. Well, where do I get the money from? Well, just get the house first, and follow steps and get the house and then figure that out. And, I don't think our brains are capable of just getting it all at once and then on an hour class or even a month class or a year. I think the big education is by doing it. And then, but maybe if a different way of thinking, like what's the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst thing that can happen? And the answer is a lot of times, nothing. You're in the exact same spot you were. So why not give it a shot? As far as like, some secret formula of getting rich quick or something like that, I don't believe there is one. I don't believe there's such a thing as passive income. Like people preach passive income and the social media shows guys successful that are on beaches and partying and all that stuff. And the successful people I know, they're grinding, but they're enjoying their grind. So, and I know a fair amount of successful people where they can afford to go to Mexico and sit on a beach. I mean, they could afford to party it up on a yacht. They could buy a yacht. They could buy a big house. They could do all that stuff, drive nice cars or whatever. That's not what they want. And if you do too much of that, you're not going to have time to get successful. So it depends what you want. If you want that lifestyle, I don't even know if that's real or not. If people really live like that, if you said, "Hey, man, let's go to Mexico next week," I mean, the answer is no. Like,
what if Fish is playing?
I want to hang out with my kids, or I want to go buy another house, man.
Yeah.
I can afford to go. I mean, I can come up with scratch to go. I don't want to.
Right.
I want to do what I like doing, and that's being in this business. And so it's hard to compete with that on social media. I mean,
right.
Maybe that's not attractive. Maybe the overwhelming buyers of this stuff are looking for that trip, trying to figure out how to get to that beach.
Yeah, but if the majority
I'm trying to stay off the beach.
Yeah, the majority of those people, lemming culture, if you will, are just going to try to follow the silver bullet quick fix. They're going to end up there. But for the hundreds, thousands of people that are serious about growth, want to become a real estate investor, want to do what you did, I think they would love if you regularly shared information with them. So I guess as a precursor to what will be the Aeron Alberti show,
right,
which we're going to make, we're going to do this. What are the three things somebody would need to do specifically if they have never done a deal, they want to become a residential real estate investor specifically, they have no money, little to no experience, like what are the first three things you would recommend?
The first thing they need to do is quit their job, right? Just quit it. If you're not 100% all in for that job and that's something you don't want to do long term. I'm not knocking employees. I mean, I have them but
JT earmuffs.
if this is not something, don't do anything that you don't plan on doing for the rest of your life. Don't even do it for another day. It's kind of my attitude. I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do for the rest of my life, starting today, and that's how I was, that's how I am now. So if I don't plan on doing it forever, why would I do it one more single day? I just, and I think there's great company men, let's say they call them, that work, and but that's what they want to do. They like doing that, and they like working, and they don't want the risk, and they don't want the beach or whatever it is, or they're happy with the 1 week vacation or 2 weeks vacation beach, and more power to them. But if you're that guy that's like working for somebody and you're like, I don't like this, and you're doing the employer a favor, you're doing yourself a favor. Just get the hell out of there, man. And like for me, it wasn't necessarily real estate, it wasn't necessarily contracting, but I did want to work for myself, and that was since I had the first job at that pizza company when I was 15 or something. Like I did not like taking instruction from people, and I hated it. And I just wasn't going to do it. I did what I had to do, but I didn't learn anything from any of these places. I learned it all just being on my own and just trying to figure it out with pressure, and I actually liked the pressure. Even at those places that I worked, there was no pressure. Like if somebody would, the pressure was on the person above you. Like they were the ones, and then they would like get, yell at you or whatever because they were feeling pressure. Right. And then I now have to feel that, and I want that pressure. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy that's making my own decisions. I'm in a room somewhere else deciding whether or not we're going to continue that person's salary or not. And I don't want to be the guy out there thinking everything's okay and having the illusion that my financial livelihood is safe when it's not. You don't have any idea. If it's not safe, I'd like to know that. And that's what being a business owner is all about. And the reward for doing better or doing something well is much better. Somebody else is going to get that reward if you do a good job.
So it's all or nothing in your mind to do it right. I mean, like there's a lot of people that, me for example, like I would love to, do a couple flips a year. I want to get into it. Maybe not anywhere close to the level you had done it at that, but like it seems like a very exciting, interesting investment opportunity. Like, is that viable? Even like the employee guys, the company people, like they're investing in funds that do multifamily, whatever, and like they're in the game. Like, to even do that, like, do you have to go all in, or are you talking about specifically for people who are like, I want to become a full-time real estate investor, I can do it, but like, is that the only way to get there, or do you think you can do it kind of more on the side, or is it really a full-time?
I absolutely think you could do it. You could do it on the side. Depends how much work you want to put in. Right. I mean, I'm not. I work hard, I think, but I don't think human beings are capable of working like 20-hour days. Or you got to sleep, you got to have fun, you got to eat, you got to do things. So if you can figure out how to do this in an hour at night or whatever, more power to you. For me, I had to be all in. I did. And look, I was fired from my last job I had, so I didn't have a choice. I got fired, and I just said, look, I'm not doing this again.
I'm chronically unemployable as well. That's why I'm in business for myself.
Right.
I understand.
So
it's a personality type.
I got fired, and I just continued my same schedule of getting up in the morning and going to work. And I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just kind of, and I like research, and I like talking to people, and I just kind of see how what path I went into. Almost just trusted. I mean, I'm going to wake up the next day, let's just do something, and we're Americans, man. I mean, there's so much opportunity. I don't know. I mean, so real estate, I like it, and it is interesting because we all live in a house and a lot of people, but there's other businesses that are very similar. But yeah, real estate wise, one of the cool things about it is you can borrow the money if you find the right deal. So the first thing you need to do, and I don't know if this answers the question, you got to quit your job. But the next thing you need to do is, as far as specifically to real estate, buying and selling a house for profit, you have to find a house to buy and put it under contract. And what that means is agree to purchase it from a seller somehow. If it was me and I was first starting, and I wouldn't be trying to calculate all your profit. I would be looking at it from an educational standpoint. Like, I don't want to lose, but I don't need to get rich, but I need to figure this out. And I think that's part of the commitment of getting into anything new. Like, I don't really know, forget how much you're going to make and calculate because it's not going to happen. I don't think it is. And figure out the process. And then fine tune it from there. So like I said, figure out how to buy a house, figure out how to come up with the money to buy it. They're not free. You got to find the money. Maybe you already have the money, maybe a family member, maybe you get a partner. That's a big thing that people do is they get a partner that already knows the business. But you have to bring something to the table in a partnership. So maybe you're the one that's finding it and they're just providing the money or providing the consultation or whatever the case may be.
Whatever, just bank loan, hard money,
find
FHA,
the money,
whatever the heck just any way to find it.
Find the money. Yeah. You got 30, 45 days usually to find it. And then find it, make sure, commit and then buy it. So now you've got this property. Now what? What are we going to do? And for me, I'm a big fan of renovating. Some people buy properties to turn around and sell it the way it is. And renovating doesn't necessarily have to be, beautiful kitchens, beautiful bathrooms, all the stuff. I mean, you could do, I'll give you an example. I bought a building in 2015 or 2016. I'll use a familiar area in Woodbury. Where are we in Hamden right now? So Woodbury, right down the street. I bought this building on an online auction. I think I paid 30, and it's funny that I don't even really remember because it was 30 or 40 grand. It was a 6-unit building. And I remember it was a disaster, full of trash, drug paraphernalia, all this stuff. And there was like a community association there that wanted this converted back into a single family house. And I mean, if you could imagine, it was 6 units in here, like, no, we're not doing that, right? So I negotiated with them, went to the zoning appeals board. I'd never been there before. I had no idea what to say. They ended up saying I could have 4 units. People, and in hindsight, people would say, well, you could have kept it 6 if you, whatever. I ended up cleaning that place out and gutting it, meaning I took all the plaster walls out and just left it framed, and I sold to somebody else for $270,000.
Wow!
So that was one of the better deals I had ever done, and I didn't even renovate it. So I just bought it, and I didn't even
You were fully
negotiate.
prepared to do the full renovation, but you got in there. That's what the opportunity presented, and that's what you ended up doing.
Yeah. So like I tell people, maybe don't go all out in your first renovation. Like the more work you do, the idea is to get a greater return, but maybe like lower your expectations in return. So a lot of times you could buy a house that stays full of trash. Well, anybody can get trash out of a house. You could get it out. Anybody, you don't need to have a skill. Like all you have to is be able to bend over and pick up the trash and remove it from the house.
Toss it. Yeah. Right.
So trash is removal is probably like the easiest, most least skilled thing, but it's a huge value add. So let's just say you bought a house for $100 grand and it's got a bunch of trash in it, and it costs you $1,500 to remove the trash. So you're in for $100 plus closing costs plus the trash, right? That house is worth, let's say, $250,000 with beautiful granite countertops, quartz countertops, white cabinets, the whole thing that you see. But I don't have anybody to do that work. But you do have somebody to get the trash. I mean, everybody's got a little brother or somebody to go get the trash out, right? What if you were able to sell that? People call it meat on the bone, like for like $140 to another investor who has those resources to do all that stuff. So you added value by making it more presentable to the investor because there's no trash in there now. So it's less unknowns. And so that's one way of maybe taking things small and just adding value to what you can do. Maybe you just paint the place, and it doesn't have. You don't have to do the stereotypical like, I'm going to do all this stuff with like tray ceilings and recessed lights,
right?
And you could do less, or maybe nothing at all. Maybe you can use you make all your money on just your negotiating skills. So say, you were going to buy that house for 100 and 1,000 or so. The same example. Let's just say that something in you makes you good at getting that house for 90,000. Just in a conversation, and that that's possible. I mean, everybody's negotiated where they live, and you just picked up a $10,000 spread by just running your mouth, right? So there's so many different ways to come up with a profit in real estate, which is what I like. So, for me, I've even added real estate disposal services, as far as like the brokerage. So I'm adding more services, and they didn't come overnight, So you buy these houses that are essentially dilapidated or rough, and then just maybe do a few things to them and sell them. So there's a lot of different ways to profit, and I'm willing to guarantee you that they're all more. The profit is way. By the hours you spend working, you're making a lot more than anything else I can think of. Maybe brain surgeons or something make more. I don't know, But I was trying to like on that example I told you, and everybody likes hearing about those wins. I mean, my actual time spent on that was probably in less than the tens of hours, 10, 20 hours, for that kind of margin. So. And I don't think I did anything special. I was in the game. But keep in mind, I wasn't working at I wasn't working at a company hey, you got to be at this meeting at 2:00.
Sure. You're highly motivated to get.
I was
something
in
done.
the game,
Yeah.
so like, and
Failure
I'm
was
a
not
big
an option. It's like you had
I'm
to
a
get
big
it done.
believer that if you spend 8 hours in the game, whether or not you're directly profiting or not, just getting up and going and talking to people and focusing on not necessarily tasks, but like just getting into stuff, just talking to people and kind of like we're doing now, or just asking people, hey, how do you get the, you got bankers, you got real estate agents, you have contractors, you have title companies, you have workers, you have marketing guys for those places. There's plenty of people to talk to. Just always be talking to them, and you'll start picking up little bits of information that I think are huge profit. If that's what you want, and I wanted that profit and I wanted that independence. So, but I didn't necessarily have a number in mind, and I still don't. I still don't. I just do that advice that I'm giving you. I do every day.
Seems to have worked out pretty well.
That's for everybody else to judge, man. I don't. I'm happy. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And if something pushes me in a different direction, then so be it. It's always kind of it always kind of comes back to fixing up old nasty houses for me.
So for people who want to do the same, or just interested in just learning from you, or just picking your brain, how do they get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
Just call me.
Yeah.
Just call me. Send me a text.
I think we'll get you some personal social handles so people.
I mean, there's only one
sending you DMs.
AERON space ALBERTI on Facebook. You can find me. I have a Facebook page, I think. So,
awesome.
Awesome. That's one of 5 things that comes to my phone through instant messenger or whatever, text, email, whatever.
Cool.
And so, believe me, I don't have enough people calling me, asking me much of anything to really be overwhelmed with.
Well, not yet.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's it. We'll see what you do there. But it's, and I'd like to, at some point, maybe figure out a way to profit on it, But at the same, I like it either way, and if I can, I'll still do it for free. I mean, it's like one of those things where if I ever make any money consulting or anything like that, I guess I'd like to if I had a vote, but I don't care one way or the other. It's something I wouldn't mind doing, and it's just like I said, enjoy. I'm just a big believer in just doing what you enjoy. I mean, if you got a few days in a row that you're not liking what you're doing, just stop. I mean, just
what's the point?
There's if you like sleeping, then sleep. I don't know if it's very lucrative, but that's. I'm just lucky to where what I like doing happens to be profitable. Also,
well, that's the dream.
So.
Well, that's awesome. It's been really informative and learned a lot. And as a potentially budding real estate investor, it's awesome to get your experience firsthand. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed it. But
I think you can't go wrong, and I don't think you can go wrong. I think that like I said, you'll either get an education or do well. Yeah. And I think the education may even be worth more.
Yeah. Well, like you, I'm starting out with my own. I'm gonna live in my own house that I don't plan on necessarily selling, but I'm gonna watch you and your crew like a hawk, and I'm gonna learn as much as I can and see if I can pick up anything. I'll try to help, but it will be of no assistance at all. But try to know enough to be dangerous, but I'm far from handy, so I'll try to learn as much as I can. But no, I think this is a great outlet for you. I really do. I think you're gonna enjoy doing more of this and talking to more people. So we'll get more content produced and keep a lookout out there on the internet. Thank y'all for watching. Appreciate it. See you next time.